How we went. Oh, we started? Okay, welcome to the Community Board 1 Landmarks February committee meeting. And we're going to start with our friends at 37 Harrison Street. The townhouse is in Tribeca.
Right.
Good evening, thank you.
Mhm.
I'm back.
Good.
I came last month and there were some outstanding questions about the easement, which I'd like to talk about tonight. So we're seeking permission to build a low fence and gate at the backyard of 37 Harrison Street. 37 Harrison is one of 9 privately owned single-family townhouses. They were saved in the 70s and relocated to their current place on Harrison Street and Washington Walk. Incorporated into the master plan for Independence Plaza as part of the Washington Street Urban Renewal Area, which was put into place in 1976. So our proposal is for a 5-foot-tall metal fence and 2 cedar unlockable gates to delineate the backyard of this property. And I can walk you through the specifics of the design at the end of the presentation. But right now I wanted to focus on the issue that we are facing, which is that this area is part of a fire egress easement that was put in place over 50 years ago. And the built conditions have changed, calling into question the relevancy of the easement. So we can look at this plan from 1976 that shows the fire access easement. It's the last page in the presentation. Which we found, which shows diagrammatically the path of the FDNY egress. And originally there was a curb cut and a large gate to allow for access. I've included in your packets a picture of the gates, which are no longer there. And you can see in the foreground the curb cut that allowed for access. In 2015, the owners of 25 Harrison Street, which is the building on the corner here, right here, this white clapboard building, this is Greenwich Street, and this is the place in the old photograph where the egress was located. So in 2015, the owners of 25 Harrison Street worked with Landmarks for permission to remove the large gates and build a fence. On the LPC permit, it says that though the original site plan for the relocated buildings included an easement, subsequent construction of street furniture and plantings along Greenwich Street have eliminated the access, and that the FDNY has not provided confirmation that this access is still needed. I also reached out to the FDNY last month. I showed them our proposal. They basically declined to comment on whether it was necessary, saying that the acceptability of the fence and gate and the applicability of any easements must be made by the DOB. I also submitted a FOIL request just because I was curious what this Washington Street Urban Renewal Plan showed. I haven't gotten that back. I will next month, but we're at the point where we have to judge the situation based on the current conditions. So I recommend that you recommend this design for its appropriateness and perhaps acknowledge and defer to the DOB on the applicability of the easement. No part of these townhouses abut public space except for the 6 that face Harrison Street. The courtyard space is also privately owned. And I'd like to point out that every townhouse along Harrison has put up some kind of fence or gate or fixed planter. And these haven't really created unsafe conditions. The conditions that necessitated the easement in 1976 no longer exist, and the current fire code compliance provides far better fire safety. including requirements like hardwired smoke detectors, updated electrical. So it's hard to understand how this logic still applies. And I've also read that it's not unusual for defunct easements to remain in place just because it's very expensive to, refile. And there are 9 people here, so it's a big undertaking and it's been 50 years. That's all I wanted to say. I can answer any questions about the design, but.
So we're talking about replacing the fence that we see on the front facade that says 33 with one that looks more like the one where it's not even, that fence, it's not relevant, the fence that says 33, that's not the fence you're talking about.
No, that's the fence,
Right,
that's their neighbor's.
That's just
fence.
gonna stay right like that.
Yes,
Okay, your fence is somewhere behind that.
yes.
You can't even see your fence
Here
from
it
the
is.
street.
Well, I mean, that's,
Oh, that's the only
what's left,
picture of
yeah.
which we could, but that's from inside the court. The picture that you just pointed to, these are from inside, right?
isn't that where your fence is?
Yeah, inside, but can you not see it from the street? I'm
You
just,
cannot see it.
not any part of it, and you won't be able to see the other new part of it from the street.
No.
Okay. Questions? Anyone online have questions? No? Susan, no? Vicky? Okay.
In Teresa,
Uh,
not worried about their safety and this is okay with everyone? You're okay, can be seen, so they're fine, right?
No theory.
you're saying you were worried about safety and this young lady came back and told us all about the safety and now we think we're okay with it? Is that the?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so then, do we have enough people to vote?
You do not, but I was told you still can take a vote and then you'll just indicate it wasn't a quorum.
Okay, so we're gonna write a favorable resolution, but we'll put the thing about how DOB needs to weigh in on all the kind of.
Yes, yes,
Yes, yes, absolutely.
yes.
Okay, so
That's
call the
the
question.
fiction, not ours, right?
Second,
So all 4 in favor?
Yeah,
Yep.
yep,
okay, thanks for coming back, that was great. All right,
thank you.
nice job. Okay, number 2.
6
Number
Barrett,
2, it's Barrett, okay.
Jared,
You
Were
gave
you
us something
here?
already?
Jared, were you here for that vote?
Yep,
Did you vote yes?
I did.
Okay,
Yeah, you
thank you.
voted.
Oh, hello, Jared.
Didn't see you, I
Hi,
apologize.
Suze.
I think so, I'm not exactly
Give me a
sure, but I think
second,
so.
I'll move it
Oh.
I'm moving the Zoom.
What happened to the rest of the people?
Oh, I don't like you.
It's fine.
It's 6.
Oh, boy.
Here, let's share.
I thought Vera was coming.
She's
Here.
on her way.
Oh, okay.
Try the clicker, sir, see if it works.
Say
on the
that.
screen. There we go.
Oh,
Go. Good evening. My name is Gustavo Lusinger. I'm from Baldwin Architects. I'm here to present an application to install new handicap accessibility metal ramps and an access platform and stairs on the Barrick Street side of the property and to upgrade on the other 2 fronts of the building, the existing concrete steps and landing with also a handicap accessible metal ramp, platforms and stairs. The building is located in the Tribeca West Historic District and is characterized by having 3 exposed fronts to the public way. It's bounded by Barrick Street on the west, West Broadway on the east, and Franklin Street on the south. It was built around 1882. The building was originally a warehouse that was probably almost half as big as it is right now. It was designed by George Lacuna. It was known as the It had a Franklin Street address as 126, 128 Franklin Street. It was characterized for having that canopy all around the perimeter, as well as loading berms, loading docks all around. And then in 1914, when Barrick Street was widened from 75 to 100 feet, I believe, then half of the building was demolished, which is shown by the top three photos. And so the original configuration, I'm sorry, is the lower the lower left photo. The bottom middle photo is the resulting conditions in the 1940 tax photo. And then the one on the lower right is essentially from a northern vantage point looking down Barrick Street. The current conditions are essentially stoops. In the lower left side, you're gonna see that the Barrick Street front is just a simple brick facade with openings. A lower volume, a two-story lower volume was added, I believe, in the 60s or 70s, or even before that. But anyway, the access is characterized by three stoops having separate access to three different doors. The middle one being the residential main entrance, and the other two flanking doors, two retail spaces, a dry cleaners and a restaurant. On the lower right photo, you're gonna see more or less the kind of preserved characteristics of how the building more or less looked before half of it was demolished, which are these two concrete steps and platforms. Those provide access on Franklin Street to one door, to a restaurant, which is the same door on one of the doors on Barrick Street, and then three separate doors on West Broadway, as well as egress doors towards the north end of the elevation. The top right photo just show a closer look into that southeast corner. And then the other top photos towards the left side is just a general overview of the building. So here's just the building plan showing the Barrick Street side with those three stoops, and then the continuous concrete steps and platform on Franklin and West Broadway. The proposed upgrades constitute a new platform on Barrick Street, substituting those stoops, and it's extending the maximum allowed by a DOT revocable consent, the 8 foot, to the public way. And then the configuration that you see is essentially assigning 3 stairs directly in front of the 3 separate doors, and then a handicap accessible ramp providing that handicap accessibility upgrade. On the other 2 fronts, we're essentially confining the upgrade to the pre-existing footprint of the concrete and stairs and platform encroachment. These used to be, there used to be a previous approval that expired before we could break ground, and we knew it a couple of times or once, and because of the reduction of the footprint, then Landmarks asked us to buy from scratch. So as a matter of comparison, we're just showing how that application looked in terms of footprint, and then when you see it in relation to the other one, that's essentially how it looks. This was essentially in an attempt to but to establish that we were upgrading pre-existing encroachments and only installing a new encroachment on the Barrick Street side.
Was the previous approval certificate of appropriateness or just?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the pre-existing, the current conditions along Barrick Street, the 3 stoops, 3 independent doors. On the upper right corner, you're gonna see just a typical section of how that looks. That's perhaps the deepest of the encroachments, 5 feet, which is the center one, providing access to the residential lobby of the building. And the proposed is essentially, again, extending the 8 foot that the revocable consent allows. And then we're showing this typical sections along the platform and then along the stair. We're showing a typical section, cross section through the ramp on follow-up pavement. This is current conditions along Franklin Street. Proposed conditions. There's not enough space within the confines of the existing encroachment to resolve a ramp in front of this entry point. Therefore, we had to extend the one on West Broadway to be able to get here to this side. Again, a similar structure, armature, to build the loading docks, except that now the projection, it's limited to the pre-existing encroachment, 6'2" in this side. And then on the other side is a 6'8" pre-existing encroachment. Again, the retail space, and then towards the north end is two egress doors. One a discharge from the upper floors, another one a discharge from the subgrade floors. So same proposed configuration as far as armature, and then dedicated stair to the two main retail store entrances, but then towards the north end, we have the one that then provides also handicap accessibility to the door that fronts Franklin Street. The details, by the way, all of these details and configurations and whatnot are essentially the same that were approved by under the prior approval. The loading docks are essentially just a diamond plate, I believe it's 2/8 of an inch, non-skid diamond plate painted black. And then the handrails are just built out of steel components, painted black as well, with a cable guard system that provides for protection. And then they're provided with a little molding, stainless steel molding on the top to provide a handrail restability. I will show photos of that down the road. More details, here's the cross section through one of the ramps, and then the other two sections pretty much mimic what I showed you before, except that the depth varies depending on which side they're from. The handrail molding, upper left corner, how it looks in context on other building within the district. The cable guard system in context also in another building in the district, I believe is 22 Erickson Place. The door thresholds, where in the proximity of the doors, we're introducing these metal grills to catch dirt, but also to prevent snow from accumulating next to the doors. Standpipe connections, should have mentioned that. Just going to go back very quickly here. So in all cases, we have standpipe connections that are currently on the face of the existing building, fronting all three streets. So we are relocating those to the face of the new platforms. So essentially now the standpipe and sprinkler connections are installed on the face of the platforms. So that photo, that spec, the material sheet there is just showing the type of sprinkler connection that we are proposing. And then we have concealed lighting where the stair risers meet the threads. In the context of the detail, that is essentially marked right here, identified as concealed lighting. It's a little niche. The light is concealed and all you see is the glow. And it's to signal the change in level when you're climbing the stairs. Nothing with large glow or anything. It's just to signal it. Some contextual comparison examples, 2220 Erickson Place, also in this district. It shows the kind of similar type of construction in terms of the finishes of the diamond plate and the cable guard system, except for the front of the platform, which is recessed, which is not our case. We're just proposing a flat one, going from edge to grade. Same situation, the opposite side of this building, 27 North Moore. This one is another building in Tribeca North District, is the neighboring Landmark District, and it's just to show in context the stainless steel molding over the handle system. And then I have some appendix pages just in case you ask about the clearances for handicap accessibility to each door point and why the dimensions are shown as such. We need turning radius at each end of the platform. Therefore, we always need to provide a certain minimum amount of depth at each point. Similar on Franklin Street. And then the one on West Broadway as well. That is,
Are you working with like a handicap consultant for all of these technical things? You know, or you know, it's not like a test, I'm just saying, it looks like the form of this is being dictated by minimum things,
Yes.
but I know that's how it works. So you have that all taken care of, right? This is as small as it can be because you've made everything as tight as possible with these radiuses, okay?
yes.
What part of this isn't there like staff level rules for ramps now, or are there not any? What makes this kind of like the next level thing? Because we're covering up historic fabric, what's the, you know, what's bringing us here today? It's just the size of it?
It's a change in the appearance of the building.
Okay,
We're adding.
Just there's no staff level way to approve this in any way, they don't provide any.
No, we have to seek a certificate over.
Okay. Okay,
Is it sealed? Relatively sealed? I've seen some of these that have a tendency to gather trash or vermin or all sorts of things, and a whole ecosystems begin to build beneath them.
Yes, so we're providing on every front, removable access panel
Yeah.
for maintenance, but also we are providing, it's like a 1/2 to a 3/4 inch gap between the grade, the finished sidewalk, and the edge of the platform, also to allow any water that seeps in to just run on.
And this, I was curious, oh yeah, and the backside's built, it's solid on the back where it comes to the building too, is that what I'm
No,
seeing?
there's a little of a clearance because we want to allow some
But like
movement
the material, does it fold down and hit the sidewalk?
slightly, not completely against the building wall, but just slightly.
And I'm just curious, the standpipes, are you just sort of extending the pipe out and supporting it at the far end of the?
Yeah. Yeah, and it has to abide by FDNY rule.
so essentially, details remain the same that you had approved before, it's the same roof design. I understand it's smaller, but everybody loved the Air Force cable, or it's all the same side, you haven't made modified those things,
The
yeah.
landmarks armature,
they've looked at
the
that
cable
already.
guard system,
Yeah,
all
okay,
that.
great, all right. And you came to us before too, obviously.
Yes,
Right.
not me, another
Someone else,
architect, 8
okay.
years ago, I think.
Okay, does anyone have any questions online? Or comments? Or over there, nope, that's just, yeah, okay,
Public comment?
No.
No, nothing. Excellent.
Jared,
No, not really.
okay, thank you. All right, call the question.
Second,
All in favor?
I'll second it, yeah, whatever.
Yes,
second,
Yes.
Yes,
Your motion,
okay,
Yes.
thank you,
Thank you
Brian.
very much.
385 Greenwich?
Yes.
All right, we're really going through this, huh? Lucy, you're not gonna get a cab home tonight.
Yeah.
Go bus, after a certain time, you get the cab, I think. In this city with craziness, where she's going, oh my
Sorry,
God.
I didn't did you guys give me, your material?
Material,
That's fine, you just have it.
okay. We are here, okay.
Okay.
Whoa, that's one? I
Yeah.
thought that was 7. There's one, okay, okay. Okay,
Whatever it is. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
it. Let me just pull it out. Oh, that's fine.
You have our most recent?
I have what I was sent. Let's see. We'll walk through this and see if something.
We have to hear about that. So.
I will send you what, the committee.
oh, yeah.
Is
we'll
there
write a
much
resolution.
to what you sent me prior?
And I, yeah, resequenced.
It works in the back, because it's like an open, we can see them, don't.
Can we, is this, this is Zoom? Is this via Zoom, Jason? Can you just-
What?
Is this?
Oh,
Well, this is WebEx.
From our,
Yeah, but. yeah,
oh, I think, how does that work? They have to log in
I
here?
got everyone.
Okay, oh, yeah, so, all
Now I
right.
have to upload
Oh,
another
hey, how are you?
presentation.
Okay.
Hi, Vera, how are you?
Did you that? And everyone take a break.
I think you guys were going too fast.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Mhm.
that's the wrap.
We voted for you, don't worry. Thanks.
Thank you for taking care. Let's see. We can change. Oh, no, this is it live? No, this isn't.
Oh, here, I looked at it last night.
Overachiever.
What?
Overachiever. I've never seen it.
That was obligatory.
Sign on. That's a safety change. Sure. I don't even need my glasses. This is nice and big. Don't be looking for online, so.
No, I think we're good.
Okay. We can start. Give it a second. There you go.
I'm gonna get over. Right here. Okay, terrific. Good evening. Hi. Cass Stackelberg from Higgins Place Barton Partners.
Can you speak a little louder for the recording?
Sure. Cass Stackelberg from Higgins Place Barton Partners. We're historic preservation consultants working on the project. And I'm going to be making a presentation with Wayne Norbeck from DXA Studios, who's the project architect. The project address that we're sharing with you tonight is 385 Greenwich Street and 71 North Moore. It's actually two separate buildings in the Tribeca West Historic District. And just in terms of process, we're calendared for a public hearing on March 17th. Next month. And you can see the building here on the corner, the northeast corner of North Moore Greenwich Street. Two buildings. This is 385 here, fronting onto Greenwich Street, and 71 North Moore. And there are really four areas of work that we're presenting tonight that are under consideration by the committee as well as the Land Use Commission. The first is really largely staff scope, but it's an extensive scope of restoration work across the facade of this building. As you'll see as we go through this, the building is in very poor condition. Very little of the historic fabric is actually visible. All that remains really exposed is this 40-foot stretch of cornice and then a cast iron column at the corner. And as part of the scope that we're proposing, we think we're going to be removing the stucco and restoring the brick facade back, redoing the base of the building with new storefront infill, and then constructing a rooftop addition. So those are really the four pieces that we're sharing with you tonight. The building's history, 385 was built in the early 19th century. It was completed in 1808 as a two-story building. And then from the 1870s, two additional floors were added to the building on the corner. The building at 71 North Moore was completed in 1815 and also developed by the same person who developed 385. They were joined internally, although the floors do not align. You can see in the context beyond it is what is now known as kind of the Fisher Mills complex, the warehouse building here, and then this Fisher Mills building, which went through commission review and this committee as well about 25 years ago with extensive repair and restoration and 2- and 3-story rooftop construction. And so that's the immediate context in which our site is located. I'll mention that in considering the project and thinking about the proposal, one thing that we've been struck by is this theme of transformations and how the building itself has been transformed from the early 19th century through today, the addition of extra floors, the coating of stucco, but also the district itself and the transformations that occurred really through the second half of the 19th century with a sort of introduction of warehouse and industrialization that came about throughout this neighborhood. And then later in the 20th century, with the development really across the street of Independence Plaza, And then now more currently, the transformations that have occurred really under commission review with the establishment of the Tribeca West Historic District. Another site photo, this is looking now south down Greenwich Street. This is that Fisher Mills complex here with all the approved rooftop construction above. And then we're located here down in this corner and the Tribeca Hotel on the southeast corner. The context and the position of this site we think is also relevant. We're right on the western edge of the historic district, so all of this Independence Plaza, what is now the Citibank Tower, directly across the street from the site. And looking west on North Moore Street, 71 North Moore, 385 Greenwich Street, the Tribeca Hotel. So this is the district where the cobblestone streets are, the Belgian block, and then the context directly across the street. So we are very much in this sort of edge condition. This aerial photograph, I think, also sort of places the building. So here we are on the corner of North Moore and Greenwich, that development on the west side of Greenwich, and then the Tribeca District and St. John's Rotary here. So you can see the sort of scale and position of these insertions in this urban fabric and the position of these historic buildings between. Looking at the existing building, as I mentioned, the entire facade was coated, we think, around by 1950 in stucco for both buildings. The base of the building on Greenwich and turning the corner on North Moore has been reconstructed much more recently. And all that remains in terms of historic fabric is a corner cast iron column here, and then this length of cornice. Everything else has been stripped off or coated and replaced over time. Some details of the cornice. The stucco is in quite bad shape. It's hard to see in this image, but there are cracks throughout the front facade. Our client and his family just purchased this building 6 months ago, so they're inheriting these conditions and really have every intention of bringing this building back to sound condition and sort of knitting it back into the fabric of the district. A few more detailed photographs of the stucco and the parapet condition at 71. Some photos of the ground floor. This is all contemporary brick here and contemporary infill from the last 20 years. And then turning the corner, this is this remaining cast iron column, which will be integrated back into a corner entry that was there historically. And you can see in this photo this sort of unusual condition where the brick piers are actually outboard of the facade, and that's all recent construction. Turning down the street on North Moore, this sort of patchwork of generations of brick and windows, and then the base of 71 North Moore with stucco, the very thick dimensional stucco over brick. This building was converted in the 1940s to industrial use. It became a coffee roastery, so it has sort of more of an industrial character. The interior framing was largely changed at that time, and it has a sort of a different character than it did historically, and the building adjacent. Speaking about the stucco, we have done probes on the North Moore side of the building to understand the ability to remove the stucco, but to also try and understand the condition of the underlying brick. These are photographs here, and here across the North Moore elevation, two probes on the Greenwich Street building and one probe at 71 North Moore. And in looking at this, while they may look a little bit rough, we actually have some confidence that we'll be able to get the brick off, in part because there seems to be this sort of painted layer on the brick that allows the stucco to come off. So our intent is to remove the stucco, expose the brick. It will certainly be new brick infill. There are instances where the brick face has been damaged, but we feel confident that we'll be able to get back to the brick facade, as well restoring the cornices. I mentioned this idea of transformations, and we think this slide really illustrates this change from the 1860s to the end of the 19th century. What is now St. John's Rotary was historically St. John's Park. St. John's Church was on the east side of Barrett Street, and this was this idyllic residential neighborhood, much like Washington Square today. And in the 1860s, Cornelius Vanderbilt purchased the park from Trinity Church and built a giant freight depot right in the middle of it. So this geometry and this geometry, it's the same location. And that really led to this transformation of warehouse district and sort of industrial transformation of this part of the neighborhood. You had rail lines running up and down Hudson Street. You can see this photograph. This is looking south down Hudson Street. And then this is a view looking across St. John's Park. So you get a sense of just how much this neighborhood changed through the 19th century. The introduction of the elevated rail also transformed this neighborhood. This is a photograph looking south on Greenwich Street. 385 Greenwich is right here, and you see the 9th Avenue elevated running right up in front of the site. Some tax photos illustrating the conditions, the elevated running right in front of the building. Historically, this corner recessed entry, the cast iron column, and the presence of the cornices. We're using these photographs as a guide for a lot of the restoration work that we're taking on. But you see the previous conditions of the building prior to it being coated with stucco and really altered across the base of the building. And then photos from the 1990s when the historic district was designated, illustrating what the condition of the building was at that time, not dissimilar to how it appears today. And finally, before Wayne takes over, we want to just share a few images of approvals that the commission has granted for buildings of varying scales in the Tribeca West Historic District. As we said, sir, this district has changed continually through the 19th and into the 20th and now into the 21st century. Currently, sort of those transformations are really under commission review and approval. You know, this Hudson Street project here, small scale, 3-story historic building with a very contemporary 2-story addition right at the facade line. This property really just down the street from our project site with a multi-story addition. And then this building directly adjacent to our property. So the district has continued to change. The commission has acknowledged the value of contemporary design as being sort of a way to kind of keep the district alive, but to also maintain the sort of quality and scale of the historic buildings. And so that balance is something that we are pursuing as part of the project.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wayne Norbeck. I'm a partner at DXA Studio. And thank you for reviewing the project with us this evening. So we're going to get into the proposed design here. So there's really sort of 2 main components to the proposed design. We have the restoration of the existing building, which Cass started to get into with his articulated comments, and then also the sort of rooftop addition that we're proposing on top of the existing building. We think that the overall sort of ensemble here, there's an effort to kind of sort of embrace the precedent of visible rooftop additions, as Cass had mentioned prior, but also kind of keep the scale sort of modestly in check compared to some of the neighboring context. So I'll start with the existing building and the restoration work that we're doing. We really want to embrace that kind of notion of transformation, and to that point, almost consider the base of the building almost like an archaeological dig. Where we're removing the stucco, exposing the existing brick, doing restoration work on that, but then also the opportunity to bring back the sort of sills and expression of the lintels, which will be in cast stone. Also the replicating the historic 6/6 windows as well. And then, as Cass mentioned, the existing cornice, which right now is only in this portion of the building, will be wrapped around to the front of the building. And then we'll recreate the original cornice that was on the 71 North Moore side as well. Also in the center of the building, there's kind of an interesting feature that's happening, which is that because it was 2 different buildings originally, and the 385 Greenwich was built on a slight angle, when the buildings come together right now, there's actually about an 8-inch projection, 71 North Moore. And what we'd like to do is recognize that in this portion of the building, which was later added and connecting the 2 buildings, we'd like to sort of notch that down, almost create a reveal that specifically highlights both the 385 side and the 71 North Moore side. In terms of the storefront, as Cass mentioned, we have the only real existing original material that is remaining is this corner cast iron column. So we're going to be restoring that, and then recreating the kind of cutaway 45-degree entrance into the building. And then, in addition to that, we'd like to bring back this kind of projected storefront window configuration, which was actually listed in the designation before it started to show up in the 1940s photos. But we'd like to bring that back from the designation report and sort of projected storefront openings. Also keeping the kind of asymmetrical composition, which was original to the building on the North Moore side. And And then I'll get into the sort of residential entrance in further sites. In terms of the addition, what we're doing here is really proposing a very contemporary addition to the building to be distinctive from the existing context of the historic building. But at the same time, an addition that responds very directly to a lot of the history that Cass outlined in his presentation. And specifically in terms of relating to the building, but also to the district. For the building itself, kind of picking up on this kind of altered federal style of the building, where the cornice is a very prominent feature, and bringing that up into the language of this kind of plate steel articulated cornice and bracket composition at the top of the building. And then we also wanted to create, through that expression and the sort of arches and so forth, the relationship to the kind of historic infrastructure that you saw in the presentation that Cass gave, that embraces the history of Tribeca when it was sort of the warehouse district, providing kind of access from the port and the warehouses up into the rest of the country through these rail lines. So continue on here. So this is a straight on elevation that's showing the exposure of the existing brick, the 6/6 windows, and the sills and lintels that will be restored. On the base of the building, we will have to do new infill brick that replaces the brickwork that had been added most recently. That we're proposing to be this color brick here, which is a sort of tone-on-tone relationship with the existing masonry, but a touch darker, so it's very clear as to what is a new infill. You can also see the kind of projected storefront openings, which will go into the kind of retail or restaurant space beyond. And then on the right-hand side, we're showing this will be the residential entrance portion of the building, which is located on the Northmore side. The sort of center bay loading, which was a loading dock originally, will become the entrance to the primary residence, which is occurring on 345. And then on the second floor, there's a separate tenant apartment, and that'll be accessed through this door on the left of that configuration. Looking at the addition, it's really sort of a singular expression of this kind of patented steel, which is shown here. And the idea is that kind of singular design, but at the same time, it also responds directly to the fact that we had two buildings originally here. So on the left, we have a sort of larger expanse of glass that is encapsulating the kind of main living spaces in the penthouse. And then on the right, we have, in some more private areas, an extension of this kind of federal language that continues up through the building. On top of the penthouse, there is a sort of small access pavilion to a roof terrace, which really, as you'll see as I flip through the images, is almost very minimally visible at all, if at all, from the streetscape. There's also an elevator overrun at the top and some mechanical equipment. And then this is showing that view in 3 dimensions, where we're really sort of accentuating this concept of shadow and play on the facade, both in the existing building by recreating the cornices, but then also bringing that back into the rooftop addition. Another element that we really want to create a relationship with is this kind of the corner column and the cutaway entrance, and how that kind of dematerializes the corner of the building for the historic buildings, and then bring that same kind of relationship up to the penthouse, where we have sort of an all glass corner. And so it has that a similar relationship, but in a very sort of contemporary way of dematerializing. And that also comes into effect in this view as we look down Northmore Street toward the Citibank Tower, where that corner is kind of eroded here, and then also at the top, we kind of echo that same condition. And then looking at the storefront in more detail, as I've already mentioned, we have the cast iron column that will be restoring the entrance, projected windows, which were just simplified projected storefront openings, and that kind of asymmetrical composition, which is accurate to the original condition of the building. But another thing that we wanted to mention was we'd like to bring back this sign, and we'll show you some details of this. From the 1940s photograph, there was a really elegant sign at the corner of the building projected from that. We'd like to do a contemporary interpretation of that sign for the rest. So these are the material samples, which are also here on the table. We have the brick from the base of the building. This kind of patinated steel, which is here for the penthouse itself. The cast stone for the sills and lintel elements, and some copings that will be very much in concert with the existing brick and the proposed brick. And then the storefront at the base will be a painted steel, which is this Black Panther color, and we also have the sort of paver terrace up on the roof.
It's the blue one. Seems to be blue. The one with a whole bunch in it.
In it, it's not on this one. Yeah, it's not on this. It's just this.
Oh, it's just more of the bron.
Oh, what is that one? Yeah.
More of the bronble.
Exactly.
Oh. DDC's here, right? DDC's here?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Here's some technical drawings of the project with the existing condition on the left and the proposed on the right. In these technical drawings, the addition looks almost a bit stretched, but in reality, it's interesting that when we look at how the floors are composed here and the sort of heights, especially of the fourth floor compared with the fifth floor, it's actually very much in concert with that scale. And with the addition of the cornices in perspective, it looks very much in proportion. You can see the sort of pop up in the back, but from the perspective views and mock-up, it's really visible. In terms of the section of the building, this is an interesting drawing in that we have the existing 385 Greenwich side and then the 71 North Moore built at different times. And then the connector in between does not have a cellar that goes down. And also the floor heights of the building right now are a little bit different between the two different sides. So what we're proposing is to kind of systematically go through very carefully and redo the existing floor slabs. And then also lower the cellar, which we're coordinating, the owner is presently coordinating with the neighbors on the structural work that we're going on there.
Is one of the neighbors the Fisher Mills building or not?
Yes.
Yes. And then just wanted to show you a little bit more of the detail of that sign that we'd like to recreate in a very sort of contemporary and simple way on the corner of the building. This is the 1940s tax photo up above, and so we'd like to bring that back. And it's like a really great element that you can see up and down Greenwich and also on the north side. That's.
Yeah. So we've gone ahead and there's a mock-up. And so what we've done here is a series of views around the building.
You did the mock-up. There's a mock-up.
There's a mock-up.
Okay, good.
Absolutely, yeah. So a photograph here for all these slides, a photograph of the building with a mock-up, and then a rendered view dropped in. So you see the treatment for the base of the building with the exposed brick, and then the patinated steel addition above. So we begin walking down North Moore Street, then directly across the building. So to Wayne's point about the way the addition is perceived in the elevations relative to what you see on the street, and then this open corner similar to what's happening down on the corner. And then directly from across the street on the corner, this rendered view, obviously with the mock-up to the left. There are views coming down south on Greenwich Street. This was probably the clearest, but you can see it for maybe another 100 feet to the south, but the trees begin to kind of obscure it. So we chose this view, but I think it's important to sort of see this building in the context of its immediate surroundings with the Fisher Mills complex. All of this obviously is new construction, and you can see the same here. So this block front is one that has changed over time under commission review of the district, and we're sort of nestled in that L of that warehouse building. I think it's also worth noting, as we stated in the outset, just the underlying condition and integrity, the sort of architectural integrity of the existing building. Not dissimilar to Fisher Mills, which was in terrible condition when that project started. I worked on that 25 years ago. We think this project, given the condition of the building, that affords an opportunity to sort of approach this project perhaps a little bit differently than a building that's largely intact where all of its historic fabric is remaining and exposed. View looking east on North Moore Street, sort of somewhat directly straight on. with a multi-light 6/6 windows back to the historic condition and the transparency of the ground floor and across the roof. Now further back, this is close to West Street. And again, you see the building in its context with the Fisher Mills complex, the Tribeca Hotel, and obviously the larger buildings to the east. Across the plaza in front of the Citibank building, soon after the snow. And then just moving up Greenwich Street and looking south of the overall context of the district. Leave it here. Be happy to take questions.
Okay, who's gonna go first?
I've got a whole list.
Okay, go.
Is this the oldest building left on this block?
On the entire
The
block?
entire block?
Very possibly,
It
yeah.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I like the little cutout, but I think removing any of the original historic material, even for the sake of a better design, is a bit of a stretch for me. So it'd be nice for you to sort of figure out how you can maintain that piece that you're considering removing those two buildings together. Yeah, the little notch,
The
you know, the notch at the top,
Oh,
right
I
above
see, I
that
see,
window,
I
the
see.
parapet or whatever it is, you eliminate
A
it.
paragraph.
So I think, I
This
mean,
piece,
it-
right?
it- but, yeah, it's a bit of a stretch for me. The details on the vitrine, between punctuations on the ground floor. Yeah. Are they the same? It looks like the west side may have a different detail underneath than the south side. And I don't know if that was just a model. Are they the same?
Under here.
Yeah, right under there.
Yeah, I think they're meant to be the same.
Yeah, the ones on the west side look more resolved than the ones on the south, and I just hope so. I'm not sure that that's the cast stone that, I mean, I know you're not restoring this building, but this isn't really what you'd expect to see for those cast lintels and in its original condition. You may discover something under there when you dig. See, that could be improved. You may not want a contrast, but it probably, I mean, it might have been, was this 1810?
Yeah, I think we're likely to find around seven, yeah,
So maybe a little bit finer,
a little browner.
well, no, just a finer to it or something. So,
Yeah, that's it.
the other thing, cornice on the Northmore side, is there, obviously you've got evidence of that later 19th century cornice to replicate, and that's beautiful. Right, on the Northmore one, is there any photographic evidence of what was there?
The tax photo just, it's really a tax photo of this building, but you do pick up a piece of that, so that's what we use.
And something was there.
Yeah, it's just a simple
Certain
sort of
things
bracketed.
was there. I think there's a little bit of tension or duality between the scale of the one that you've chosen at the lower level than the upper. They're almost, they, at least in one of these drawings, they look like they're almost identically the same profile and identically the same height.
Yeah,
And maybe the one at the bottom could get a little smaller, or the one at the top could get a little bigger. Something to just sort of differentiate between there if you feel like you need coverage or whatever that's doing for you down low. Maybe just lighten up a little bit. And oh, floor system, just curious, you said floor slab, is it not a wood floor system in there?
It is now, but we're looking at either like sort of steel deck or.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'll also mention there is a very modest amount of excavation as part of the project, a couple feet, and the cellar height right now is 6 and change. Yeah, so 5'11", so we're looking to provide a little bit more head height.
Who's next?
You wanna go next? Go ahead. I'll go next. So the enclosed area on the roof, is it open to elements or is it an additional floor which is enclosed?
That's an additional floor that's enclosed. And so we're actually not taking full advantage of all the FAR that's available on the site. We consciously made the decision that we thought this was the appropriate amount, but yeah, that's going to be enclosed.
Got it.
Meaning it's not a double height space with the floor below, that's the question?
Or
Or
just
just,
the canopy. So they are actually buildings.
yes,
Yes.
another story, yes, this is gonna be a 5-story building now.
What is the program of your ground floor? Is it retail
Commercial, it'll be
Yeah.
some shoes.
with the entrance right at the corner?
Right.
That'll remain the commercial entry.
And then there's a secondary door on the Northmore side, and then the residential entry is on the 71 Northmore.
Got it. And the projections that you have on the storefronts, yeah, how much are they coming out?
They're coming out 12 inches.
And that's legal with code and.
Yeah.
Great.
That's it?
Well, I'm going to through my list.
Okay,
No, I'll go
Listen.
next.
okay. 1 second, Vicky, let me just make sure Netta hits the rest of her list. You got a lot
Oh.
of points.
I'm sorry,
okay.
I'm not, I didn't, it's hard to
I'm
hear
holding you
from
back.
here.
in the little gate there.
I
1 second.
know.
Hold on.
Your glass spans that are on the top, are they gonna stay as clear glass or are you gonna have some mullions perhaps that are not going to make it look like as glassy as it's shown?
We intend that to be full glass pieces.
What are the dimensions of it?
They're around 20. We're looking at 2 different fabricators that can do up to 22 feet. They're all fixed. We're getting our line now from the small ones.
But they're not 22 feet, they're the dimension of like a single light.
They can go, the manufacturer can go up to 22.
Right, but.
22 by what?
What the dimensions
Yeah.
are of a, like a central light is a.
15.
Sorry, I didn't get it. So it's 20 feet?
It's 20 feet and a half.
Yeah, so 15 feet range for the largest pieces, and about 8 feet for the secondary pieces.
And they go all the way from how you're showing it from.
Yeah, the light there is handled with smaller windows.
Got it. Vicky, you can go.
Okay, Vicky, we're ready.
Yeah, okay. Just to pick up on what she was asking about the ground floor protruding boxes. Can you please go back to that elevation? Where is the property line? And you're saying that if the property line is along the wall, then you can protrude 12 inches into the sidewalk?
Yeah, I think that 12 inches is an LPC condition. I think normally you're allowed to project about 10 inches with architectural features, but LPC can give up to 12
I think it's
inch.
like 3 or 4, but anyway.
Or below with an LPC approved component.
That's for you to figure out. I don't think 12 inches is permitted, but so I'm going to say that while this is a lovely corner building, I have the following comments. And Jason, I'm really adamant about this, okay? So the loggia on top, can you please pull out so we can see the whole elevation? I call it the loggia on top. So you have to decide if it's a loggia, then you cannot have this hideous glass. It is heavy and out of character. As someone else pointed out, Bill, the competing cornices I call. Choose which one is primary on this building. I did not like you taking the dimension out of the corner. You had a specific word, you were taking away architecture language. That column has to get beefed up. I don't know if it's in size, in color, but that building, that looks like a crutch.
Hey, Vicky, that column's original. Well, no, it's late 19th century, but it's some
Right,
fabric
okay.
that they're
No,
trying to
no, I
keep.
like the column. Looks like a metal Corinthian. What
Yeah,
they've done is peel away the architecture and now they made it look like a crutch. I'm just reading your architecture. And the fact that all your glass that you were adding is out of character, both on the ground floor. These boxes are evasive on the sidewalk. They're probably very sharp. These large panes of glass on ground floor and at this loggia, I'm sorry to say, are the most unappealing solution. So if you promise to work on this, put some mullions, make it more in character with the rest of this neighborhood, you'll have my support. Otherwise, adamant no.
Okay, Susan, you must have something to say. And then also Jared, please speak up since we're all here. Susan.
I happen to like the small building, the treatment of the windows there on the right. I don't like the glass. I don't like the way it looks. I just don't like it. The rest of, I don't have trouble with, but that top, I don't like it. I really don't. I think it's out of character and it just hits wrong. For me.
Okay, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, mine is more of the same. What I like is I like the return of the brick. I like the prominence of the column, and that is pretty much it. I don't think the other examples that were given of other additions of buildings in the neighborhood are remotely comparable to this. This is, just again, I'm not going to have the architectural terms that others here have, but it just doesn't look right. I don't even know what the word is, but the two overhangs, the original, detailed one, and then the one that's added, looks totally bizarre to me.
Yes.
I think there's a way to do this, and this just does not seem like the way. It just doesn't seem, it seems completely different and more extreme than virtually everything else in the neighborhood. That's visible from the street, at least. A lot of those other additions are barely visible from the street, and this just hits you over the head with it.
Thank you, Jared. Vera?
Yeah, I think, I was looking at, I like how you're trying to do something different and trying to tie in some contemporary look to it. And I'm not an architect, but from my point of view, you have a very delicate building beneath and you're throwing something so heavy on top. And it just feels, overbearing in a sense. So if you could lighten that somehow, and also not take away that piece in there, which this piece, I didn't understand that much. But anyway, you have this very delicate, column on the corner and everything else is seemed very heavy on top. So that's just my, observation.
Okay, that's everybody? Okay. I'm just not even gonna comment on it, because I actually kind of dug it, but whatever. Yeah, it's a little much for the bulk is a little bit much for what's the underlying bulk, but I think you guys are very close. I'm just not, I don't think we have enough to write a positive, certainly don't have a positive resolution.
No.
On my thoughts. Do we, guys? I mean, so.
No, we don't.
Okay. I thought we would maybe, but it sounds like we really don't.
No.
Victoria?
Someone wants to speak?
Victoria?
Oh, can I, how are you, you're changing from multiple dwelling to a two-family?
Correct. Yep.
And what is the impact of that with flood stuff? Just knowing that this is very much in a flood zone and now you're, I find personally that anytime I change the use of a building, there's not a nice term for it, but it's a lot like being in prison and how DOB treats you. So are you prepared for all of that? Do you not have to raise elevations here?
Yeah, we're gonna have to take all the necessary precautions. For
Yeah.
The flood mitigation.
Yeah, like gates, sprinkler the building if it's not sprinklered, all sorts of things, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
you're
one of the reasons
prepared
why
to do
we're
that.
recessing that.
This is a class 3 non-fireproof building right now, right? It's a wood and you are gonna rip all that wood out?
Right.
Okay, it's gonna become a fireproof building?
It will.
Yeah, fireproof building, okay. How many sets of stairs? One set of stairs?
One stair.
Mm-hmm.
Well, two actually. There's.
You don't need to if you have a fireproof
Well,
building.
there's a dedicated stair to the second floor.
Okay,
have a
fine.
dedicated stair with
Okay.
residential.
I guess I'm gonna unfortunately be putting a couple comments on how we don't like it and, right? I mean, unfortunately, and, I like the
Thank you for your
presentation,
time.
yeah,
Is that-
yeah.
Y'all took some notes, so, and
What
we'll write up
the
some-
tenant there is on the way out? This is happening, obviously, no matter what we
The
say,
owner's
so.
been speaking with the tenant
Yeah.
for months and they're,
Eves,
they'd
right?
like to keep him, they're working through.
Yeah, sure, I mean, that's a neighborhood staple,
Jason.
sure.
Jason, on
And
that
the
front
other-
though, it's the same owner of the two spaces, I think. And so I know it's out of the scope of this, but we're gonna be losing two viable businesses from the neighborhood as well, which stinks.
Right, they'll land on their feet, that's a very savvy restaurant group, I'm sure they'll be fine. It's just business, you know, on the corner of Greenwich and wherever, Northmore, like, that's really not our problem.
But as Cass mentioned,
Yeah.
there's an effort.
Yeah, I'm sure, these guys are all players, obviously, so they'll work it out. Okay, we'll write something that is not positive, but has a positive kind of flair to it, I think. We can find some things to make it sound nice and worth your while.
Jason.
Jason,
What?
Jason, do we, they're not gonna, this is their final, this is what they want to submit. They don't want to make any changes. I just want to understand that.
Yeah, they want to go to their public hearing,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
I
We've
don't
been working
know.
with staff for a
Is there support for a
while.
rosy spin?
Not from me.
Not
for
from
me either.
me.
That's what Rosie's been.
Like a
Make it-
way that we tell them how to design the building.
Hello, am I online?
No, then we're not gonna bother with that.
Let's see.
Okay, well,
Hello, everyone.
Victoria, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Victoria.
yes, we
Go
can
ahead,
hear
Mom.
you.
Yes, thank you. This is
Who is
Victoria
this?
Hillstrom, and I don't know who this gentleman is, but every word he said is fraud on the face. These are two buildings combined above the ground floor. We brought up to code in 1982. There are 39 permits and certificates to repair over our damage from the Greenwich Hotel. His notion of disrepair or that nothing is landmark belongs in Disneyland. Those are 200-year-old bricks dating back to 1805 and 1815. The Greenwich Hotel is a copy of 385 Greenwich. I don't know where this kid is from or whom he thinks he works for. This is fraud. The matter is under investigation. The FBI has inspected every inch with video over the ongoing fraud. This is the fourth time they have been caught committing fraud. I think everybody can Google 385 Airbnb scheme all over the press. I don't know what this kid thinks he's doing, but not one word he said is true. This isn't the history of the buildings. Carlos is a very famous architect. I am a designer. He is not going up against us. And of course, I know half of the people on Community Board 1. I don't know who this young kid is, but I think that you need to ask him to leave Community Board 1. This matter is under investigation by the mayor's task force, by every department in New York City, by the mayor's task force for over, there's 6 index numbers, and it's been tied up in litigation since 2010. Ask him who blank page is. Maybe he can tell you who he works for. But as it stands, every single thing he asked for is transparently fraud on the face. Every word from the beginning is fraud. So I think that we need to ask this young boy to march his derriere right out of Community Board 1 before he ever commits fraud on Northmore. This is disgusting.
What kid is she
Okay,
referring to?
Whoever this young architect is,
What young
every
architect? What are you
word
talking
from
about?
his mouth is fraud. This presentation is fraud, beginning to end, with the FDNY, the DOB, the LPC, the Mayor's Task Force, Tish James, the FDNY as my witnesses, and corporate counsel. So whatever his delusional influvium over what he presented, the entire building is landmarked. Those valances are 200 years old. We brought these buildings into 3 full floor lofts. Our life savings are invested in these buildings. The notion this kid just said after 39 permits that the buildings are in disrepair, Vicky, you were there when they tried to tell you doors were windows and windows were doors. The last time we denied moving the entrance. You can tell them, no, this matter will be tied up on the courts for the next 20 years, whomever this kid represents. He is not credible. This is outrageous and egregious. And he would like to commit fraud on Northmore, where every permit
Okay.
and certificate has been falsified. What he said does not reflect the buildings. It isn't the history. It's absolutely outrageous that he had the unmitigated gall to think we would not find out and get online. I know, Tammy. I know everyone in Community Board 1. So whatever he is doing, he
Please mute this.
Victoria, I tried to be nice. I had to mute you. You're on record. We have it. We appreciate it. And we're gonna move on to the next project. I think the
let
chair
him
this
commit
moment is
fraud
gonna
on you.
call-
It's not happening to us. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Oh my God.
My God.
Okay.
Darling, those are our loss. Oh my God, yourself.
Oy vey.
Oy vey yourself.
Okay, could somebody mute her?
Okay. Thank you, guys. We won't have that. All right. Wow.
We didn't vote on this, so.
Okay, call to question, writing a resolution that's not favorable. Okay, who's seconding that?
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay,
And what's up?
so, Vicky, Susan, and I think we lost Jared.
Yeah, well,
That's okay.
Now Jared's here.
Where? Oh, well,
Jared's
he's not on
also
camera.
I think he's probably bored to death, but.
So you're all in favor of writing a negative resolution, is that I'm
Yes.
hearing correct?
Correct.
That's me.
As well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. DDC?
DDC,
Right.
give it to us.
Hello.
Give me 30 seconds,
Where was
man.
Jason? Until then, it was so quiet.
Doesn't hear.
Well, I'm having the medication.
You're gonna be all right. We're still recording, so watch what we're going, where we're going.
Tammy's giving me pointers. I'm trying to take my pointers from Tammy.
As I said, watch with this.
Yeah.
Well, slow down is a fine thing to say.
Okay.
Tammy knows that
Let's stay
about me.
quiet. Let's stay
Tammy knows that about me.
Do you see Nick Petinati's name?
Hi all, I'm Nick Petnati, Deputy Director of Urban Design here at New York City DOT. How's everybody doing tonight?
Hi, good evening, welcome.
Thank
I
you.
can give him cold.
That's how I understand it. It's
Nick,
this
do you want to advance the slides?
Oh,
Nick, do you want to be co-host?
one. This screen.
If it's easy, I could just say next slide.
I wasn't sure
Mess
myself.
with the technology.
Can't hear what he said. I'm sorry, can you repeat that again, sir?
Well, I was just gonna say, if it's okay, I'll just say next slide, so we don't have to mess with the
Go ahead,
technology.
go ahead.
But if you want me to be, whatever is easiest, truly.
Great. Okay, there you go.
You can do it.
It's your now. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Sorry, I can't join you in person today. I'm just recovering from a cold and didn't want to spread any germs, but I appreciate you all allowing us to present this project. I'm joined by colleagues from the Department of Design and Construction. Again, I'm Nick Petnati. I'm Deputy Director of Urban Design for New York City DOT. We are working in close collaboration with DDC on this effort. And we're here today to talk to you about some of the work that we would like to do in Lower Manhattan along the individual landmark that is the street plan of New Amsterdam and Colonial New York. Quite a unique landmark in the city. It's the only street grid that is landmarked. So we're excited to talk to you about this. Here's the agenda. We're going to go over sort of why the history, why we're here. This is sort of two parts. We're looking to propose sort of an overall approach to how to make pedestrian improvements along this individual landmark. And then there are a set of actual specific locations that DDC is aiming to rebuild the pedestrian ramps to bring up to ADA compliance. And so we're going to cover both of those in the presentation today. Next. So as I'm sure you are familiar, we're here looking at the individual landmark that is the street plan of New Amsterdam and Colonial New York. The areas that are highlighted in those dark gray boxes are the specific corners that DDC will be rebuilding to bring up to compliance with the American with Disabilities Act ADA standards. And again, we're looking at this though in a more comprehensive way because a lot has changed with regard to the street grid here. At the same time, a lot is staying the same. Next. A bit of the history. Obviously, this is an individual landmark that was designated by LPC in 1983. Unique amongst the streets that are landmarked. Many of our streets fall within historic districts, and we talk with landmarks all the time on those aspects. But this is the only individual landmark set of streets that exists in the city in that way. Most of the time, individual landmarks are a building or a structure of some sort. But there's a rich history as to why this is the case. We have from the designation report, there is a number of really, really great resources and historic maps that show how the street grid of Lower Manhattan here evolved over time, going all the way back to the 1660s and the Casello plan, looking in the sort of later 1660s at the Nichols map. If you go and continue, you can see next, again in 1731, we can start to see the evolution of this. And then again in 1766, as ultimately Lower Manhattan and the island itself is developing, really much of the street grid that existed all the way back in the 1660s remained. Portions of it were a canal that got filled in over time, a la Broad Street. Names of streets changed over time, but the layout really remained the same, driven by sort of the development, the need for defense, and a whole host of things. Next. And then we have here sort of coming into the later 1700s, and then ultimately in 1980, the landfill map of Lower Manhattan still showing sort of that figure ground. And then finally, if we go to one more next, we have what it looks like today. And again, you can really see how that street grid pattern has been maintained, even as the area has developed over the years. Next. What is our goal here? Really, we are, in many cases, the mobility needs around Lower Manhattan have also changed over the years. And I'm sure many of you see it as you walk around your neighborhood. We've been expanding pedestrian space, trying to make it easier for people to walk and move around the streets of Lower Manhattan. And in many cases, that means looking at how to build out curb extensions, how to make things ADA compliant. And ultimately, we wanted to do this in a way that was comprehensive. And so we're trying to put together this kind of prototypical approach to how we want to handle these kinds of changes while still respecting the character and the street grid that actually makes up this individual landmark. If we go to next, you can see how some of these mobility needs have been playing out over time. Some of the operational improvements that DOT has made in adding painted space to our streets, making it safer for people to cross, easier to navigate. Ultimately, though, that is a short-term solution. We want to make sure that this infrastructure really has staying power, is durable, and provides the kind of mobility improvements that we like to see across the city. If we go to next. We also have a fundamental responsibility to make sure that people of all abilities can navigate the city, those in wheelchairs, those with strollers, those with mobility issues, whatever the case may be. We want to make sure that they can get across the street safely, have, again, a pleasant way to move around the streets. And obviously, this part of the city is a very unique place to navigate. The streets are unlike most other parts. If we go to next, we have also some historic precedent or some precedent that we've been looking at that has been done throughout the district already. These are some pictures of improvements that were made along Broad Street. Broad Street is, was previously a canal that was filled in. And so again, sort of marking that was really, really critical. If you go to the next slide, we have sort of a very specific example where the original curb of Broad Street was preserved at an at-grade condition, and we were able to build out a curb extension that in this case allowed for seating and space to gather, but still really recognized the existing curb line that was in place, made that clear and visible, while at the same time accommodating the expanded pedestrian space that allows folks to really enjoy the street even more so. And so this is really giving us sort of informing the approach that we want to take throughout the individual landmark here. And so if we go to the next, this is really what's led us to our kind of prototypical proposed treatment, where at corners where we need to make improvements, again, installing pedestrian ramps to be compliant with ADA, our goal is to keep the existing granite curb in place, essentially as a header, so it'll mark the existing location, the historic sort of location. We would then build out a new curb and a new area of concrete to allow for folks to have a shorter crossing distance, allow for that ADA ramp, and still be able to differentiate that from a material perspective. And so there are a couple of examples in the next couple of slides that look at how this is playing out across the district. Some places will be looking at doing tinted concrete, some will be looking at doing untinted concrete, sort of depending on exactly where that falls in the district. But the same approach is essentially what we're looking to do. It'll be granite curbs, standard concrete that is prevalent throughout the district, ADA compliant pedestrian ramps, white detectable warning surface. Again, really trying to be respectful of the materiality, recognize that existing condition, but still be able to build out that expanded pedestrian space to make it easier for folks to navigate. And so that's really the general gist, what we're looking to do sort of throughout the district and what we're planning to present to landmarks. And then we do have these specific projects that are moving forward from a design and construction perspective. DDC is managing this aspect and will be finalizing the design details and then ultimately moving into construction. But we're looking at these locations: Broadway and Rector, Hanover and Pearl, Broadway and Beaver, Bridge and Whitehall, and then Broadway and Wall. And the remainder of this presentation is really just looking at those conditions and going one by one. So I'll move through this quickly, but we can obviously come back to any of these locations should you have more specific questions. So here is the first one, looking at Broadway and Rector. You can see the existing conditions, that existing painted space that's been there. And then on the right, the plan of what is proposed. And if we go to the next one, we have Hanover and Pearl. A similar idea here, a slightly different curb extension configuration, but still that same painted space. I walk by this almost every day on my way to work. DOT's headquarters is down at 55 Water Street, so I'm quite familiar. And so if we go to the next, we'll see the next set of locations. This is Broadway and Beaver. Again, same idea, looking at building out these painted pedestrian spaces, installing ADA compliant pedestrian ramps, and maintaining that distinction. So the overall sort of historic curb line remains. Obviously, a lot of what makes this an individual landmark is the layout of the streets. The streets are not changing at all. Really, we're just looking at the materiality here and making sure we can accommodate the accessibility needs and the mobility needs that folks have today. And then finally, Broadway and Wall. And I think that wraps up where we're at. This gives you a little summary of where we are in terms of the timeline for the projects. So these are moving at slightly different paces, but we wanted to make sure we could present this to you again comprehensively and get your feedback. And with that, I think that is the last slide, and happy to take any questions from the board. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
I'd like to start. I saw the pictures of the existing conditions. What was the proposed? I might have missed the proposed.
So
Maybe just a diagram.
Sure. Sorry for not being clear. The proposed is basically taking that painted space that you see in the pictures that's at the roadway level, and we'll raise it up to sidewalk level, and it'll be concrete instead of asphalt. And then the curb itself will be a granite curb along the outside, and then a flush granite curb along the historic curb line to mark where that condition existed.
So would we say it's a sidewalk extension?
Yes, for all intents and purposes, exactly.
So now the beige acts as just no man's land, technically? It's not a space for anybody?
The beige is designated pedestrian space.
Right, I understand, but today, in the real world, what am I to think of what the beige space is? I'm meant to think I should be walking there, or it's?
Yes, correct. It functions as pedestrian space.
You can walk there, Jason, you can walk there if there's a car not parked there.
True. That's one of the other reasons why we want to make
The one on Hanover, I know them all. Yeah.
What about the bollarding?
Yeah, where will they?
Is that gonna go away? I think you've got big granite blocks, in some places you've got metal bollarding, what? how does-
Okay, so, and this is, we're going to LPC to approve a master plan because these are individual projects with different timelines. And we'd love to have an approach so we don't have to go to the full hearing every time. So we haven't gotten into each specific detail for each site.
Yeah.
You know, so something like that is something we hope we could figure out at staff level.
But the detail would never be to
Nick-
like,
Nick may have a response for that.
you wouldn't be putting in anything contemporary. The detail is to be in keeping with granite and concrete things, and if
All
there's been granite
historic
there already, you'd extend the granite and.
All DOT for district.
So you're trying to make a little bit of a guidebook between your two agencies for this network of locations in our very big, but it's only in the street, the street bed of this historic Wall Street area. So we kind of know it to be Broadway all the way east of there and, okay, sure. Oh, I understand where it is. Any other questions, guys? What are we thinking?
I have a question.
Yeah,
I do too.
anybody?
You wanna go first?
No, go ahead.
So
I
for
have my
the-
hand up.
Oh, Vicky, can we just do the two ladies in the room and then we'll go to you? We didn't think.
Of
you bounced in.
course, I have my hand
right.
up, no problem.
Okay, ladies in the room first.
Where you have the curb or
Yeah.
you're doing the addition, is it always between a street and a pedestrian walkway? Or like this photo that you have from Broad Street, does it open up into a bigger plaza, which is seating area?
That's a good question, Nick. I don't know. I guess Broad Street is, you know, how it interacts with that Broad Street location.
Yeah,
And what
Broad
is
Street is a little unique, but generally speaking, the painted spaces are between existing sidewalk and roadway, usually the travel lane. Again, sometimes they might be adjacent to a parking lane, but that's the typical configuration.
That's the precedent we were looking at, you know, where they made.
Like this one, this.
Correct.
So
that's-
this one I have a problem with because I always trip over this curb because there's a plaza going into a sidewalk and you never know when one starts and stops.
That's good to know.
It's very different if you're going from a pedestrian walkway to a street, because, you know, you will know that.
Yes.
That was one question. Another question that I've had is that I see that DOT, you guys are working with them. What about the DSNY, which I think it's the.
Transport Authority? We're recording with them as well.
You are. Is there, I mean, walking around the neighborhood, there are a lot of trash that just gets pushed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, interesting and true.
And I think there should be some sort of coordination between you guys, DOT drop-offs, loadings, and where, I don't know if they're planning on putting containers on the sidewalks.
Right, that's a general plan that you've heard about, right? So it's
And
likely
if that's
to
the
happen.
case,
Yeah,
and they are
right, should
doing
be
a
that.
master plan, you guys should know
Yeah.
where their
Right.
containers.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
good feedback, both of those
thank
points.
you, yes. You're hired.
Great.
Um,
Nick, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, so again, we work very closely with our partners at Sanitation on this aspect. Obviously, they are working throughout the city on a containerization plan. That's coming into effect in various places. It sounds like the board has been briefed on that. Obviously, they are not yet at Lower Manhattan, so that's something that we'll be working really closely with them as they get to this point. We have worked with the local business improvement district down here to do some of the container placements for the bids trash that they collect off the streets. You may have seen that on Water Street, for example, right at Hanover. There's a set of those containers. So that is something that we're keenly aware of. Again, most of the space that we're talking about here is already existing pedestrian space. It's painted, but it's not areas where we typically see trash set out. Most of this is at pedestrian crosswalks, and it's really to facilitate that back and forth. That's what we're looking at for the most part. But point taken, and again, it is definitely something that we will continue to work with our partners at Sanitation on.
Okay, Vicky. Oh, no, Vera?
It's okay,
Vicky first. Vicky.
Well, I just wanted to confirm that in one of those diagrams where the sidewalk extends, that actually is in the same path as the bike lane. So the bicyclists are coming across and then we have to, work around that.
Is the
I think you
Sorry.
had a slide
Yeah,
somewhere, a
if we can
plan,
go to that,
and I
that
see
slide there.
bikes, bike markings. As you know, I'm a big bike rider, but man, I drive it like a car and I follow rules. But most people on bikes don't. Not this one. No. And
Yeah,
I
it's
just
a little,
wanted to
it's in
know
one of the specific conditions.
right
Yeah,
there.
it's this one here.
So
Yeah.
your thing and yield to pedestrians doesn't work. I know that for a fact. So how are you thinking this is going to work, and how safe do you think it is going to be?
So I do think that this will, to some extent, enhance conditions here, because this will be much more like your typical curbside bike lane, where the folks that are about to cross will be standing elevated above the bike lane at sidewalk level at the pedestrian ramps, and then have to walk down to where the bike lane is. So it's very akin to the conditions that you have in most of our curbside bike lane conditions. Whereas obviously right now they are standing in that painted pedestrian space, and it's a little bit more nebulous in terms of how the users interact. So on that front, I think it is ultimately an improvement on this condition. Obviously, but not to discount, like, people will still have to look before they cross.
They're gonna
right,
have to
and
look
observe
seriously.
all of this. It's the same, but this is very much akin to how people cross bike lanes in many parts of the city. So that part we will continue to work on as a citywide level, and need more bike riders like you that created Vicky.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, please.
So so I didn't see a master plan as part of this. How do you guys pick which sidewalk to improve and which one to leave alone? Or is there a master plan for this area that you guys are working with that we could see?
Well, they have those 5 to start. You have those 5 programs that are funded. Is that, if we go to the last slide, those are funded and you're gonna do
Correct.
them. In doing them, you're learning that you're gonna wanna do a master plan. Is that kind of?
It's an LPC master.
Yeah,
plan.
right. So that
we
you can
need
hand them
that.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need that, we need that.
We understand. We understand
But are
that.
you talking about a general, are you talking about LPC master plan or just how?
Is the LPC for
approach-
the area that you are focusing on? If someone comes tomorrow and says, oh, I was on this street and I couldn't get up the pedestrian walkway with my wheelchair, is it in the works? Can we know? Is it in the works?
It's a DOT. Maybe next.
So
But how are these-
oh, sorry, Laura, go ahead.
But I think the question is, how are these prioritized locations that get?
And where do,
pedestrian
yeah, besides
How do they
these
choose?
5,
How did you choose and how many other?
Yeah, how did we get to these 5 and what's
Right.
coming next?
exactly.
What's
Or
the
is
whole?
there a plan?
Totally fair. So I'll say, in general, we on the city DOT side, the city side, are working through upgrading all of the pedestrian ramps throughout the city. Right, the city was sued, and we have an obligation to make sure that every single pedestrian crossing is ADA compliant over the course of the next, I think it's 10 or 15 years. Please don't quote me on that. I'd have to double check. But we have a set time frame to go and work through all of this from a practical standpoint. We're handling that through many ways. Some of the pedestrian ramps we are upgrading in-house with DOT forces. In places where we cannot do those kinds of simple upgrades, that is generally where we involve DDC in order to have them help us out in building these out as a capital project. Many of the corners in Lower Manhattan are very complex. There's infrastructure around, there's below ground constraints, there's dimensional constraints, there's all of these sort of factors. So there is a series where, our pedestrian ramp program is going and taking a look at all of those pedestrian ramp corners. Some of it is because we have to follow along with resurfacing. So anytime a project impacts a corner, whether it's a private developer that's building a new building, whether it's a city project, whether it's repaving, that triggers the need to upgrade those corners and make them ADA compliant. So that is one of the ways that we ultimately are going to be following through and upgrading these things. And then we are working to identify places where we can make broader improvements in the neighborhood that take some of that painted pedestrian space that you saw earlier in the presentation and ultimately rebuild that in concrete. That is subject to funding and further budget and other kinds of negotiations. So there is that challenge. I think, to be clear, what we're really hoping to get buy-in from LPC here is on this prototypical approach to making these curb changes. And then we would take each project as it is funded or as it comes online to LPC for review at a staff level to make sure that it is compliant with this overall approach, and ultimately building out these curb changes in a way that's consistent with that approach.
Got it. So the ask here is to approve these five locations that's listed, right? Not a whole master plan for
The
you.
approach, the sort of just the aesthetic approach. The materials. How we're gonna,
Do we like granite? Do we like a level finish? Do we like tinted concrete?
Yes, we do.
Jason, I have a comment.
Yes, Jared.
For me,
go.
for me, I'm just trying to sort of understand it, because to me it seems like there are sort of two conflicting elements to this that don't entirely work for me, which is if we're I don't particularly like some of these bulb outs in general, right? But if we're deciding as a city that this is what we're going to do, and there are certainly good reasons to do it, the ADA accessibility, namely being a primary one, I just sort of wonder why we're hanging on to that second curb. I understand that that's the historic curb, but the reality is if the city is a living, breathing organism, as it sort of is in many ways, right, and it's evolving, then why don't we just evolve and do it? I don't know what keeping that original curb there really signals, right? If this is the direction we're going and the streetscape is changing, then let's change it. And if if we need to hang on to the historic components of it, then let's keep the curbs basically as they are and factor in the ADA accessibility portion of it alone.
That's what they're
I
doing.
mean, well, you could give that to LPC in your letter,
Yeah.
because this came out of our conversations with them,
Yeah.
asking us, because this is a unique landmark where the roadbed is what's designated, that the curb line to them is significant.
Right, but
That dimension, so that, that was an ask from LPC, is to keep sort of a trace of that history of this, street plan of New Amsterdam Colonial. as feasible. But if you should give LPC that feedback, saying maybe you need to hold on to that idea.
Recall that this street plan is the only street grid in Manhattan that is landmarked. So they're trying to hold on to that hard line from 16, what was it on the first page?
yeah, it's only 16 something.
Well, but I guess my
1600s,
point,
but yeah.
right? But I guess my point is then hang on to it and just do the curb cut. This is the curb cut and the extensions we're seeing throughout the city. If the extensions, temporary or permanent, are not historically appropriate, then let's not do them at all. Let's just do the curb cut as
Well, but
required
Jared,
to.
we have, okay. Let me ask you a question. Jared. I never understood these yellow spaces as a place safe for me to walk, but apparently that's what yellow designates. Now, for me personally, in terms of expanding such sidewalks in these areas where there's so much foot traffic of tourism, I think it's a win-win-win-win to make this brown part now level with the other sidewalk, and just, that's so kind of them to at least leave some sort of notation that it used to be the sidewalk was this wide. I mean, God knows when. It wasn't that wide in 16 something, but it wasn't in 2000, and it's been like that since 1976, and all of us and our grandpappies walked on it. So I feel like, what could we say? Complete your thought on what's kind of like negative about this before we close up the thing, because I want to hear, they're trying to make it easy to do these street improvements. Now's our chance to tell them what we don't like about it. So you want them to incorporate any handicap stuff now? That's something we should get out there and say, right?
I think we have to. I think we certainly have to and should. The handicap improvements I think are necessary throughout the historic districts, not just this.
Okay, so we're gonna note that for sure, right? we're gonna say, guys, if whatever you do, when you, even if you, you know, need to keep a line of where this old thing was, please, now is the day to put the infrastructure in for accessibility. Don't come back with some accessibility idea later.
And,
Okay, Vera, yes.
sorry, in line with
Oh,
Jared,
Susan in a second. Yes,
sorry,
Vera, yeah.
Susan, I know you're losing. In line with what Jared was saying in terms of the historic. So these 5 places, none of these are the streets, these streets are as Amsterdam area, any of that have cobblestones?
Hmm.
Do any of that?
I would think they must. I would think they must.
Okay, because I think that if there's cobblestone in the street, that should be treated differently in terms of how it's.
Instead of
being-
expanding the
it's
side of
pedestrianized.
concrete. Agreed,
Yeah,
yes.
because we're
Okay.
losing, that I think has to.
We don't want to lose cobblestone in these pedestrian places where there obviously was cobblestone. So can you address that, guys?
You don't see that in any of the 5 locations.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
not,
Recently have,
not right now, but
that's-
you're talking about, yeah.
And LBC.
Appreciate
also
that,
have
yep.
So I want to say something.
Please.
Well, I will. So
Yeah.
on Hanover and Pearl, right? Isn't Hanover and Pearl one of them?
Yes.
You have people there. Nicholas, are you going to inform the people what's going to happen? Are you going to have a little meeting, or you're going to send out something so people know what the hell's going on?
Certainly that's and maybe my colleagues at DDC who are going to handle the construction, that is a typical process, right? Before work starts to happen, we'll notify, we'll let everybody know what's planned, how that's all
We
going to
hope.
play out. Right. That is how it typically goes. And obviously we are going to be presenting this to Landmarks as well at a public hearing. So there'll be opportunity for further comment on these specific locations and the approach broadly.
If you find anything in the excavation process, will you, you know, anything of historical value, is there something protocol in place for that, since you're gonna do like, you know, earth moving to make these things happen?
We'll coordinate with LPC or.
Okay, there's part of the
Yeah,
thing,
it's
okay.
surface work.
Yeah, okay,
It's like
great,
each individual filing.
cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Vicky, number 2, Vicky 2, are you still with us?
No, she left.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no,
Do you
come
want,
on.
Vicky, do you wanna file a lawsuit with Attorney General?
On record.
Felt like that.
That
You were
was-
gonna go, yeah, you were about to be indicted.
That was
Yes,
intense.
exactly. Just by association.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. This is Marlene Nunez from the Department of Design and Construction. Just wanted to touch base on what Nicholas was mentioning as far as notification. We will be providing notification to all residents, businesses of any work in advance. So once the project is set forth, then there'll be a liaison who will be communicating this, or a resident engineer.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
You're
Okay, let's call the
Call the
vote.
question.
Second.
Second. Jinx.
All in favor? Any?
Aye.
any
Aye.
recusals?
With all the things we
Can we,
said.
yeah, with all
Vicky
the.
Cameron,
All the things we said.
Vicky Cameron
Any
recuses.
Thank you,
Vicky Cameron
Jared?
recuses.
Jared's gonna be a no.
A no.
A
Hello.
no. And Jared's gonna talk to the third person apparently the rest of the night.
Okay.
Well, this is the last one. So Lucy, I'm a recuse, correct?
Wait.
Yes, yes, ma'am, I heard.
And Vera is gonna be an abstain. She's
And
talking in
Vera's
a
gonna
third
abstain.
person too.
Okay, this
In the
is getting
third
better.
person. Susan
Yes.
is a yes in the first person.
Okay, so we are going to talk about adding the handicap
Karen
stuff.
still has-
We're gonna talk about
Cobblestone.
cobblestone, accommodations. What else?
Coordinating between all the agencies, so we
Right.
don't have it
Right,
in
for the
construction
neighborhood not
for
to
20
get
years.
completely creamed
And
on it.
ensuring
Okay.
the community is
Notification of the
informed.
residents. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go back while we're here. I have to recuse myself on, which one? 385 Greenwich. I have to recuse myself. So we'll just do that now and, that's
And-
it, right?
And make sure protocols are followed for any historic fabric that is.
Right, and we have that in there too, exactly. Okay, thank you, thanks, have a great night, that worked out very well.
To adjourn?
Thank you all so much.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Vicky and
We
Susan.
have other things
get
on
well
the agenda.
Yeah, exactly, please.
You
Bye, Susan. Bye, Vicky.
Bye, good night.
Bye,
Thank
bye,
you.
bye.
Night.